just texted you after weeks or months of silence, understand this. They don't miss you. They miss controlling you. And the reply I'm about to share, it's not dramatic. It's not emotional. But it will hit them harder than any angry paragraph ever could. If this resonates with you, pause for a moment and ask yourself, are you about to reply from strength or from old wounds? And if you're choosing strength, type "done" in the comments to anchor that decision. When a narcissist texts you after a period of silence, it's often a classic example of what psychologists call hoovering, named for the way they try to suck you back into their orbit. This behavior is rarely about genuine concern or reconciliation. Instead, it's a calculated maneuver designed to regain control and feed their fragile ego. During the silence, you have disrupted the usual pattern of their manipulation. They have grown accustomed to having emotional access to you, whether through your attention, your reactions, or even your anger. When that access is cut off, even temporarily, it threatens their sense of omnipotence and superiority. The text is their attempt to restore what they've lost. It's not an apology, it's not affection, and it's certainly not about understanding your feelings. It's a probe to see if the old dynamic can resume, if you will respond the way you always did, if your emotional energy is still available for them to exploit. This is why the timing often feels jarring. The silence creates a vacuum, and your return to normal life, your moving on, your self-possession, all of it can feel like a challenge to their self-image. They can't tolerate the idea that you might exist independently of their influence, so they reach out, hoping to test your availability. What's important to understand is that their text is designed to provoke a reaction, not to build a connection. They want to see if your defenses are down, if you will engage emotionally, if you can be manipulated into validating their importance. Responding emotionally, even with anger or sadness, plays directly into their hands. The more composed and detached you remain, the less control they have. That's why experts emphasize non-reactivity as the most effective response. It's not about revenge, it's about reclaiming power over your own emotional space. Recognizing this pattern allows you to see the text for what it truly is. Not an olive branch, not an expression of care, but a calculated move designed to restore their sense of dominance. And the best way to counter it is to maintain calm boundaries, emotional neutrality, and self-possession at all times. When a narcissist reaches out after a period of silence, it's often because they are experiencing what can be called control panic. Narcissists thrive on the illusion of control over the people in their lives. It's a core part of how they regulate their own fragile sense of self-worth. When you stop responding, when you establish distance or silence, it interrupts their carefully constructed narrative that they are the center of your attention and influence. This disruption feels like a threat to them, not just a minor annoyance, but a direct challenge to their power. They rely on your reactions, whether anger, worry, or even attempts to reason with them, to confirm that they still matter, that their presence still has impact. Without this feedback, their internal sense of dominance starts to crumble. That panic is often subtle at first. They might send short, probing messages or seemingly casual texts to test the waters, seeing if the old dynamic can be reestablished. If you respond emotionally, even defensively, you inadvertently reinforce their belief that they still hold sway over you. If you remain calm, neutral, or even silent, you trigger a different response, a sense of destabilization. Control panic can manifest as repeated texts, vague apologies, sudden flattery, or attempts to provoke curiosity or concern. The key is recognizing that these messages are less about you and more about their need to reassert control over the emotional environment. They are not acting out of genuine care, regret, or curiosity. They are acting out of fear that their influence is slipping. Understanding this allows you to respond strategically rather than reactively. By maintaining firm boundaries, responding minimally, or not at all, you take the power back. Their panic is a reflection of their fragility, not your failure. The moment you internalize that their need to control is separate from your choices or feelings, you stop being a participant in their panic and start reclaiming your own emotional sovereignty. Silence and composure in this context are far more effective than confrontation because they expose the narcissist's reliance on manipulation without giving them the fuel they seek. When a narcissist texts you after a period of silence, it's often triggered by what's called ego injury. Narcissists have a fragile sense of self that depends heavily on external validation, admiration, and attention. When you withdraw, intentionally or otherwise, you disrupt the steady supply of praise, responsiveness, and emotional reactions that they have come to expect. That gap doesn't just annoy them, it wounds their self-image. They experience this silence as a personal affront, a threat to their identity as someone powerful, admired, and influential. Unlike most people, narcissists don't just tolerate being ignored. They perceive it as a loss of control, an insult, and a challenge to their constructed sense of superiority. This is why their texts often feel urgent or calculated. They are attempting to repair their bruised ego. They may reach out with flattery, vague apologies, or attempts to provoke curiosity and concern. Every word is designed to reclaim the sense of dominance they temporarily lost. The ego injury also explains why their timing often feels deliberate, hitting moments when they sense vulnerability or an opening. Your very act of being independent, setting boundaries, or moving on without them is enough to trigger this reaction. Importantly, the message they send isn't about connection. It's about reassurance for themselves. They want confirmation that they still matter, that their influence hasn't vanished, that you are still orbiting around them emotionally even when you appear distant. When you understand this, their messages lose their power. You begin to see that the seemingly personal and urgent tone is actually a reflection of their insecurity, not a reflection of your worth or your behavior. Responding calmly or not at all deprives them of the supply they crave. Their ego injury cannot be healed by you. It can only be managed internally by them. Recognizing this pattern allows you to reclaim your emotional power, maintain boundaries, and stop being drawn into their manipulative dynamics. The more detached and self-possessed your response, the more effectively you protect yourself while leaving their ego scramble entirely on them. When a narcissist reaches out after a period of silence, one of their primary motivations is testing access. Every text, every message is a probe designed to see whether the old dynamic still exists and whether they still have influence over you. Unlike normal relationship behavior, this is not about curiosity or reconnecting. It's a strategic move to evaluate their continued access to your attention, emotions, or time. They are essentially asking, are you still available? Can I still get a reaction from you? Do you still orbit around me emotionally? This testing is subtle yet calculated. A simple, hey, how have you been, might look innocent on the surface, but it's designed to gauge whether you will engage, whether your defenses are down, and whether your energy is still at their disposal. They often escalate these tests if initial probes are ignored, sending more frequent, urgent, or emotionally loaded messages. This is because narcissists rely on the emotional responses of others to validate themselves. They don't introspect in healthy ways or feel secure in their self-worth. Every interaction is a transaction, a measurement of control. Understanding this is crucial. Your reactions are exactly what they are trying to measure. If you respond with anger, guilt, or sadness, you confirm to them that access remains, that they still hold sway. If you respond calmly, briefly, or not at all, you break the pattern. The testing loses its purpose because it no longer yields the supply they crave. Recognizing that their texts are tests, not apologies, not attempts at genuine reconnection, allows you to see through the manipulation and maintain your autonomy. Boundaries, emotional neutrality, and deliberate detachment are your most powerful tools here. When you refuse to participate in their testing, you communicate a subtle but devastating message. You are no longer available for manipulation, and the access they assumed they had is gone. That realization, more than any words, unsettles them and protects your own emotional space. It shifts the power back to you, leaving the narcissist scrambling to cope with a reality where their influence has been denied. When a narcissist texts you after a period of silence, it's often a form of emotional bait. Every word, every punctuation mark is deliberately chosen to provoke a reaction, to pull you back into their orbit. Unlike normal communication, their messages are not about connection, understanding, or care. They are about eliciting emotion. This is how narcissists maintain their sense of power, by watching how others respond to them. Your anger, your worry, your longing, all of it becomes fuel for their ego. Even a brief acknowledgement or an attempt to explain yourself feeds their sense of importance and confirms that they still matter. That's why their messages often feel urgent, compelling, or even dramatic. They are designed to trigger an internal response before you have time to process it. They may say things that tug at your heart, stir guilt, or awaken unresolved emotions from the past. The bait could be nostalgic, flattering, or even vaguely threatening. But the underlying motive is always the same: to create a reaction, to measure your vulnerability, and to regain control. Recognizing this pattern is crucial because responding emotionally plays directly into their hands. The more your nervous system is hijacked, your pulse quickens, your mind races, your feelings surge, the more effective their manipulation becomes. The key to countering this is emotional neutrality. By responding calmly, briefly, or not at all, you deny them the supply they crave. The message still exists, but its impact is nullified. They may escalate, repeat the attempt, or try different strategies, but your composed detachment communicates a devastating message without saying a word. Your reactions no longer belong to them. Understanding the bait allows you to reclaim your autonomy, to maintain clear boundaries, and to protect your emotional energy. It is not revenge or cruelty that defeats the narcissist. It is self-possession. When you resist the pull, when you refuse to bite, you remove the power their texts were designed to wield, leaving them frustrated, destabilized, and ultimately irrelevant to your life. When a narcissist texts you after a period of silence, one of the most powerful tools you can wield against them is the power of non-reactivity. Narcissists live off emotional responses. They measure their own importance through your reactions. Every message they send, every word they write, is essentially a test to see if you will give them what they crave: attention, validation, or an emotional charge. When you respond with anger, frustration, or even curiosity, you are feeding the very dynamic they are trying to sustain. Non-reactivity, on the other hand, denies them that supply. It's not about ignoring out of fear or resentment. It's about maintaining calm, measured detachment. This creates a subtle but profound disruption in their strategy. When they realize that their attempts no longer provoke the desired outcome, they feel destabilized because the usual rules no longer apply. Silence or neutral, brief replies communicate a message far stronger than any angry or vindictive response could, that you are no longer under their control and that your emotional state is your own. This is why experts emphasize the importance of responding or not responding in a way that is emotionally neutral. It isn't about being cruel. It's about self-preservation and reclaiming power. By mastering non-reactivity, you remove the leverage they have relied upon for so long. Their texts, once capable of triggering anxiety, confusion, or emotional turmoil, become meaningless. The narcissist may escalate, attempt to provoke, or even resort to guilt tripping, but your calm detachment renders those tactics ineffective. Non-reactivity is, in essence, a protective shield, turning what was once a source of manipulation into a demonstration of control over your own life. By refusing to participate in their emotional games, you not only protect yourself, but also communicate a message that is devastatingly clear without needing words. Your attention, your emotions, and your presence are no longer theirs to manipulate. This quiet, self-possessed response is far more destructive to a narcissist than confrontation or vengeance because it strips away the very fuel they depend on. When a narcissist texts you after silence, it's crucial to remember that boundaries matter far more than revenge. Many people fall into the trap of crafting sharp, clever, or brutal responses designed to wound the narcissist the way they were wounded. But this approach often backfires. Any emotional engagement, even with the intent of retaliation, feeds the very pattern you are trying to escape. Narcissists measure their importance through your reactions, and if you react, even with anger or a clever retort, you reinforce their sense of control. True power lies not in cutting them down, but in protecting yourself and maintaining clear, firm boundaries. Setting boundaries can look simple: a brief acknowledgement, a calm statement of your position, or complete non-engagement. It communicates that you are in charge of your emotional space, that you will not be manipulated, and that their attempts to regain access are ineffective. This is far more destabilizing to a narcissist than anything you could say in a heated moment. They may escalate their tactics, repeated texts, vague promises, or emotional appeals, but the moment you consistently enforce your boundaries, their strategy loses its effectiveness. Boundaries are the framework through which you reclaim your autonomy, your emotional energy, and your peace of mind. They don't need to be aggressive. They need to be consistent and unwavering. Over time, the narcissist realizes that the old patterns no longer exist, and that attempts to provoke, guilt, or charm you are useless. By prioritizing boundaries over revenge, you are sending a message without needing to be harsh. Your emotional life is yours alone, and you will not allow anyone to disrupt it. This approach not only protects you from being drawn back into their manipulation, but also demonstrates a profound, quiet strength that is ultimately more brutal to the narcissist than any cutting words. It deprives them of the supply they rely on while simultaneously reaffirming your own self-respect and emotional sovereignty. The brutal reply a narcissist fears most is not a clever insult or a scathing message. It is calm, brief, and self-possessed closure that denies them supply. Narcissists thrive on reactions. Their sense of power depends on your emotional engagement. Every word they send is designed to provoke you, to reignite old patterns, or to pull you back into their orbit. When you respond with emotional neutrality or not at all, you strike at the very mechanism that sustains their influence. This kind of reply is brutal precisely because it is unexpected and impossible to manipulate. It doesn't punish them, it doesn't lecture them, and it doesn't attempt to make them feel guilt or remorse. Instead, it communicates a simple truth. You are no longer available for their games, their control, or their ego validation. Something as brief as, "Thanks, I wish you well," or even leaving the message unread, delivers the most devastating impact because it leaves no opening for further engagement. It denies the supply that fuels their behavior and forces them to confront the reality that they no longer have access to you. Unlike revenge, which often prolongs the cycle and keeps you emotionally tethered to them, this type of reply reclaims your autonomy while leaving the narcissist destabilized. It demonstrates mastery over your own emotional state, showing that your peace and boundaries are more important than proving a point or eliciting a reaction. The brilliance of this response lies in its simplicity and consistency. It is unemotional, unwavering, and entirely under your control. It removes the power they assumed they had and replaces it with your self-possession. By refusing to participate in their manipulative tactics, you protect your energy, reinforce your boundaries, and communicate a level of detachment that is profoundly disarming to a narcissist. In the end, the most brutal reply is not loud, dramatic, or vengeful. It is composed, neutral, and final, signaling a freedom they cannot reclaim and a peace they cannot disrupt.